Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 156th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, The Money Conference. I am so excited today to be joined by my friend and fellow dietitian, Holly Larson. Holly Larson's brand is Holly Larson Writes, and you may follow her on Instagram. If you're not, you should. And she does all kinds of amazing things related to improving how you write, from blogging. And now she is working on this amazing conference all about money. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today, Holly, as we talk about the money conference, but then also all things money. So before we dive too deep in, I'm wondering if you could maybe introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners.
Hi, Katie, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm a loyal listener. It's really fun to be a guest. As you said, my name is Holly. You and I have met through virtual entrepreneurship, rubbing elbows. I can't wait to meet you in person. But I live in Ohio. I'm a dietitian. I knew I wanted to be a dietitian far sooner than I knew the way in which I wanted to be a dietitian. So by a long and winding route, here I am as a copywriter and entrepreneur. I have a really cool partner named Sean. We have an awesome kiddo named Henry and a Bernedoodle named Teddy. And that's what most of my life is like. But for the past year, I've been working on a project that I'm pretty proud of that we're going to talk about today called the Dietitian Money Conference.
Yes. And I remember when you first talked to me about this conference, I was so excited. For anyone who does listen to the podcast, you guys know I love talking about money. I love the transparency behind it. And I think historically, money's always been this taboo subject. For me and my journey, before I started the podcast, before I started Dietitian Side Hustle, I've been talking about money with dietetic interns for as long as I've worked with students. And every time we have this conversation, their eyes light up. They're like, we're allowed to talk about this? I'm like, yes, we are. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about how when you get a job, you can negotiate for a higher rate, other benefits that provide value to you. So I've always loved talking about money, the transparency behind it. And as I moved into my own brand, I always loved talking about money, sharing income reports. And I just think it's so helpful. And even for me, I remember seeing other people sharing income reports or talking about money. And I would just my eyes would get big. I'm like, oh, we could talk about this. Yes, let's have these transparent conversations. So when you talked about doing this conference, which is all about money, I was like, I'm here for it. Sign me up as a speaker. And I am definitely here for it. So I would love if you would share with our listeners a little bit about why you decided to create a conference called the Money Conference for Dietitians.
I think of this conference as a love letter to Holly in 2009 when I finished grad school. I took a while to travel, which was great, but then it was time to get a job and the student loans were coming in. I had spent all my extra money on traveling. It was time to get a job. And I got a job offer from a WIC clinic. And I knew that you're supposed to negotiate. That's what you're supposed to do. And I know that women tend to make less than men. So it was important to me to try and advocate for myself. And I got the offer. I didn't quite know how measly the offer was. I wasn't impressed with the offer, but I didn't know how bad it was because I also didn't know how to do research about that. And so she said the offer, and I said, is that negotiable? She said, no. And that was the whole conversation. And it's a little funny, but it's also sad to look back on because honestly, I felt kind of humiliated because I knew that it was important to negotiate, but I didn't have the skills to know how to negotiate. And not having those skills really impacted what my day-to-day with life was like with this pretty low-paying job. Yeah. And I think there are so many parallels between nutrition information and financial information that I truly think most people do want to be healthy, but that doesn't mean that they have the skills to navigate nutrition or the access to make choices that are good for their health. And it's the same with money. So the long answer to your question is I am trying to be a leader to have these conversations so that we can all be more informed and more empowered and have these skills so that we can move the needle in our field, because the current average is not great.
Yes. And I love how you said how we can be the needle in the field. I so often hear people complain about other people when it comes to their salary, but I think sometimes we forget that we can make a difference and we can be the change when it comes to advocating for ourselves, but then also to really move the field in the right direction. So, I love that you shared that. So can you tell us a little bit more about the conference itself? And I know doors, for anyone who's listening to this, the doors aren't open yet. We're going to talk about when the doors open, early bird rate. Holly has an amazing masterclass that is free next week if you want to learn a little bit more about this stuff. But can you tell us a little bit more about what's in the conference itself? I've seen the speaker lineup and I'm really excited because they're some of my favorite dietitians. But can you tell us a little bit more like what's going to be talked about in this money conference?
I am just blown away by who has agreed to participate in this inaugural conference, including you, Katie. I'm so grateful. But we have 11 sessions covered by 12 speakers. We have dietitians from the US, Canada, and Australia contributing. And we're covering finance from so many different angles, from practical things like how to budget when your income varies, which is the reality of being an entrepreneur. We're talking about how to have a vision board and manifest your future, which is great. We're talking about passive income. Katie, you can talk more about your session. We're talking about different ways to boost income streams, which, hell, we never talked about that. And if you have more income streams, that takes the pressure off of your main job, which is important. We have a great session from Megan Boitano of RD2RD about how to price digital goods, which picking what you price your products can feel really overwhelming. And she offers some really great insight about your value. And then I'm so excited. We have a session by two dietitians from Ohio who are talking about how policy affects your paycheck. There is a lot of history that goes into why our average salary is what it is. The ship sailed in 1965 with the enactment of Medicare and dietitian services not being included. And it's been a game of catch up ever since. So we're looking at money a lot of different ways. And the collection of topics is just so great. I'm excited.
Yeah. And that's what I was excited about too, because this isn't just a conference for full-time entrepreneurs. This is a conference for entrepreneurs, for side hustlers, even for dietitians in traditional jobs, because it is just so comprehensive in the things that it covers related to finance, financial literacy, getting that confidence. And I know you said this already, but these were just not skills that we learned in school. And as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about a couple of things. I'm writing some notes, so we might go all over the place in this discussion. But I remember talking to a friend who was in a male-dominated field, and she got a job, and she was sharing she got the job. She's like, well, we're still in negotiations. And I was like, what do you mean negotiations? She's like, well, I still have to negotiate my pay. It's like, oh, they don't just tell you the pay? She's like, oh, no, we're going to go. They offered me a pay, but I'm going to negotiate, and we're going to go back and forth. And I think when she was telling me about that, I kind of realized, this was early on in my career, I kind of realized that, like, as dietitians, we tend to typically accept the pay we're given in a traditional job. And we feel like, oh, I should be grateful for it. Like, I should just be grateful. I don't want to seem greedy. I don't want to ask for more money. And thinking of other fields, how like, no, that's not the norm. The norm is like, advocate, negotiate. This is a normal part of doing business. But I really feel like these weren't skills we learned in school, right? Like we just didn't learn any of these things.
No, and our mindset around money is colored by so much. It's colored by our childhood, and if there was scarcity in our childhood, and that influences how you view money as an adult. your cultural norms. Layer can add a religion to how we view and think about money. And all of those factors are the lens through which we think about money, and it can end up feeling really complicated.
Mhm.
So sometimes making progress with our skills comes from making changes in our mindset about money, which can come to unlearning some of these things that aren't helpful.
Yes. I feel like a lot of my entrepreneurial journey has been unlearning, especially related to money mindset, because that's thrown me for a loop many, many times. Like I know many dietitians have. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I wanted to give a shout out for passive income because I know I'll be talking about passive income. And I love that concept of multiple streams of income because I'm a big fan of multiple streams of income, including multiple streams of passive income. And reflecting back on the past 3.5 weeks, well, 4 weeks now, but I got COVID after 3 years of avoiding it like the plague. Finally got it, and it hit me really hard. And I was unable to work for 3.5 weeks. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't see a dip in income because the way I built my business, I have so much passive income coming in. I don't have to exclusively trade time for money. And so, I mean, there's still a lot of things. Holly and I, before this recorded, we were talking about some of the big goals I have for this year and how like I made these big plans and then like, boom, I got knocked out. So I still have big plans I want to, continue doing, but the passive income I've been able to build, like what a blessing that I pretty much didn't work for 3.5 weeks and I was still able to make money. And these are the kind of things that some of us don't even know that this exists, that this is a possibility. We just think of what we're traditionally taught. Like you go to school, you get a job that's, if you're lucky to get a good job that pays you money and you just work at that job until you retire and you retire with your 401k. And that's what most of us are taught. So I love that you're teaching all of these concepts from all of these different angles. So that way we as dietitians can really improve our skill set on financial literacy and also elevate the field. So
Yes.
yeah.
We also have a session from the amazing Stacy Dunn Emke of nutritionjobs.com. She's talking about how to negotiate and declare your value. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to students. One of the sessions is how to work as a VA, which, gosh, I would have loved to have that opportunity because that's such great, well-paying work and flexible work, which is so important when your time is so limited as an intern. And it's hard to schedule kind of traditional work when your schedule just changes so much in a way that's really not in your control.
Yeah.
So there really is something a lot for everybody at this conference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm, again, so excited for it. Can you let people know when the doors are opening? We are recording this on July 14th. And as soon as we're done, I'm going to download, upload. So this will be out into the world by then. But can you let people know when the doors are opening, when they're closing, and when they need to get their ticket to this event?
Yes. Doors are opening on Wednesday, July 19th. And then the early bird rate will be available. And I'm offering some raffle prizes for the first 50 people who enter. So I'll pick the raffle winner. They'll get to pick their prize from a list and I'll cross it off the list and we'll go back. But 2 of the prizes are free admission to the conference. One of the prizes is my writing course. So that's a $247 value. And then I have a great book bundle. So if you're thinking about joining, don't delay because you might actually get your ticket for free.
Awesome. Awesome. So the doors open for early bird on the 19th. And when does that rate close?
Gosh, I have to look at my calendar. It's 1 week later.
Okay. So it's open for 1 week and then the doors close officially with the regular rate. There's another week it's open
on
for
the
the regular
31st,
31st,
which is a Monday.
Okay.
And then the conference starts on Tuesday.
Perfect. So for those listening, early bird starts on the 19th. The doors close on the 31st. And then Tuesday, August
1st.
August 1st is
We
when it
launch.
starts. Yes. And I am an affiliate. And in addition to being a speaker at this event, I'm also an affiliate for it. So I'm going to be sharing my affiliate links. They will be at my link in bio at katiedodd.com. I will share them in the show notes for the podcast. If this is, I'm putting this is on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's going to be everywhere. So I'll make sure that my links are available, but the best place to go probably would be katiedodd.com. And I'll have my affiliate link. And I do have some bonuses that I'm going to throw in if you guys do join through my link. So, first off, it's going to be an amazing conference. It's going to be an amazing event. You're going to have access to this program for a whole year. So if you're like, oh man, I'm really busy the first week of August, I'm on vacation, I'm going to Europe or wherever, that's okay. Register anyways, because, in the perfect world, we want to do it live, but just know that you're going to have access. You'll also have access to a really amazing Facebook community full of other dietitians, RD2Bs going through this program. And Holly's awesome raffle items for those early birds. But what you're going to get from me is the Dietitian Side Hustle Money Vault. So the Money Vault is going to consist of 3 bonuses. The first one is I'm going to do a bonus live group call with everyone who signs up through my affiliate. And it's going to be an opportunity to pick my brain about all things money. I love talking about money. I am an open book about how much money I make in my business, how much money I spend, all the things. So if you want the opportunity to pick my brain about all things money, from thinking of when I was a dietitian working a traditional job, it should have taken me 18 years to max out and pay. I did it in 9. I was able to figure out the money game and increase to maximize my pay from becoming a side hustler and making money, negotiating, asking for more rates, to creating my own business, which gave me the opportunity to make much more money, and what that looks like as a side hustler, as a full-time entrepreneur. So I got a lot of things that I could share. And so you're going to have opportunity to pick my brain on a bonus call. The next thing is that you're going to get access to it. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Because like I said, I love talking about money. You're also going to get access to a pre-recorded training for me about how to get the most out of the money conference. So that way, okay, you're signing up for this conference, you really want to get the most out of it. I'm going to go through in a little training, show you, here are the steps of what you need to do to get the most out of this conference, make it worth your investment, and also do things on the back end to follow up and get the most out of it. And then the last bonus is going to be access to my freebie folder. I have a lot of freebies that I give away here and there, a lot of resources to help you on your entrepreneurial journey, your side hustle journey. You're going to have access to a folder with everything all in one. So when you join through my affiliate link at katiedodd.com, you're going to get access to the Dietitian Side Hustle Money Vault with all of those freebies. And yeah, I'm very excited for it. So let's let people know about the webinar, because this is going live on the 14th. You have a webinar on the 19th, free webinar. So I want to see lots and lots and lots of people signed up for this, because it's going to be good. You want to tell people a little bit more about the webinar?
I do. It's called Dietitian Salaries, Current Rates, and Future Potential. It's approved for a CEU 1. And by the way, the conference is pre-approved for 11 CEUs. I forgot to mention that. But the masterclass next week is kind of a state of the union, if you will, about what our average salary is. Depends on who you ask, like which resource you use and where they got their data from, and when the data set was collected. I'm going to talk about our average job satisfaction, but I'm also going to take a deep dive into the history that influences where we are today with our current salaries. There's a lot to it, because that history informs where we need to go to take action to actually make change and move forward.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people think like, what is the academy doing? Why can't they just give us a bigger salary? As though the academy is like some fairy godmother and can just like bestow a salary on us, but like, that's not how life works. And I think it's safe to assume that most people haven't like gone through the Academy website to understand the ways in which they are advocating for our field. I think they could do a better job of talking about what they're doing, but if you take the time to look through the website, there actually is quite a bit going on. But the point is, if we don't participate and advocate for ourselves, we can't also complain about things not changing. We are members of our own community, and we have to advocate for ourselves.
Yes. I'm excited. I loved how you called it, like, did you say State of the Union? Is that what you said? I love that. I think we need a lot of dietitians there. I think that this is going to be an amazing conversation that Holly is facilitating, and something that we just need to continue to carry on, because change is possible when it comes to how much money dietitians make, and we are the change makers.
We can do it. And, you know, I think I'm just as guilty as most people of ignoring like action alerts from the academy of write that quick email to your representative. But no longer, no longer.
Yeah.
It's important. We have to participate and advocate for ourselves, or nothing's
Yes.
going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've been an academy member my entire career as a dietitian. I volunteer usually multiple roles at a time within the field. And I will say I do know a lot of what the academy does behind the scenes. And it would be so wonderful if there was a magic button we could push that would make dietitians all make more money. But I also see the hard work of the volunteers who are unpaid dietitians who are working to advance the field. And so I understand it's a bigger, more complex issue than just pushing a button. And I do know there's a lot of people behind the scenes who are working really hard, but I do action alerts too. I'm, a big fan of all the things that we can do. And, I am an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur has opened up the doors to make a lot more money than I probably ever would have made as a traditional dietitian. But even as a traditional dietitian, there are ways that we can be making more money, and how we could elevate pay in our communities and healthcare systems. And there's a lot that we could do. And I know it's a big conversation, but it's one that I'm really, really grateful that you're tackling, Holly.
Thanks. I think, I don't have all the answers. I don't even know if I understand everything completely, but I'm putting myself out there and taking imperfect action to launch this conversation on Wednesday and to have this conference in August to just push things forward.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm so excited for it. And I want to see so many of you guys in the dietitian side hustle community at the money conference. So thank you so much, Holly, for coming here today to talk to us about this, project that you're pursuing, to talk about money, to have this conversation. And then thank you not just for this conversation, but also what you're doing for the field, because it is so, so important, so, so needed. And I just appreciate you so much. So yeah, to kind of wrap things up, I would encourage everyone listening to go to katiedodd.com, register for Holly's masterclass. Okay. It is free. It is on July 19th, one free CEU too. It's going to be great. Then from there, when the doors open on the 19th, right? The day of the webinar. Mm-hmm. When the doors open on the 19th, make sure that you register, get that early bird rate. It's 50% off. It's a great deal. So make sure that you register. When you join through my affiliate link, you're going to get a bunch of bonuses from me. And it's just going to be a wonderful way to kind of kick off the last, remaining part of the year with this like motivation and drive about money and all the things that can come behind that. So Holly, can you tell our listeners about where they can find you online and where they can continue to connect with you?
Yeah. So when I'm not working on the Dietitian Money Conference, I'm a copywriter, and my business name is Holly Larson Writes. So that's my Instagram. So at Holly Larson Writes, and then my website is hollylarsonwrites.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Katie.